This is an election year. We're confirming the judge in an election year after the voting has occurred.
This is a charade when they say this is a normal Judiciary Committee hearing for a Supreme Court nomination.
This hearing is a clear attempt to jam through a Supreme Court nominee who will take health care away from millions of people during a deadly pandemic that has already killed more than 214,000 Americans.
I believe Americans of all backgrounds deserve an independent Supreme Court that interprets our Constitution and laws as they are written.
Day one of the Senate Judiciary Committee confirmation hearing for Judge Amy Coney Barrett. This was opening statements and her opening statement as well. Let's bring in our panel. Fox News senior political analyst Brit Hume, Mollie Hemingway, senior editor at The Federalist, Julie Pace, Washington bureau chief with the Associated Press, and Chris Stirewalt, politics editor here at Fox News, host of the new Fox Nation show Unforgettable Campaign Commercials. I want to check that out. Brit, let me start with you. And that is, this is day one. This is the standard opening. But there was a unified message on the Democratic side when it came to Obamacare, otherwise known as the Affordable Care Act.
Yeah, you heard it expressed there by Kamala Harris, among a number of others, that Amy Coney is a sure vote to strike down the Affordable Care Act. Of course, she has no idea of what Amy Barrett would do regarding the Affordable Care Act, and neither really does anybody else, except it's worth reminding these Democrats that of the state of play in that case. The case that is coming before the court is one in which the law was ruled that it had to fall because the penalty, the mandate penalty, had been zeroed out. Therefore, the justification that Justice Roberts used for upholding it falls away, and that the whole law must fall away. That's what's called severability. It's kind of a technical issue. It's not at all clear how Amy Coney Barrett would vote on that. But remember, if she were not on the court and it's decided by a 4-4 court, the lower court's ruling would stand and the law would fall away. So I'm not sure at all what danger she poses when you think about the posture of the case. Democrats seem impervious to that.
Yeah, Julie Pace, there's the two sides here, Senator Durbin, Senator Grassley.
The Republicans on that committee and beyond are tone deaf in the middle of a pandemic to be pushing a lawsuit to eliminate health care protection.
The left is also suggesting Judge Barrett's confirmation would be the demise of the Affordable Care Act and the protection for pre-existing conditions. That's outrageous. As a mother of 7, Judge Barrett clearly understands the importance of health care.
You know, it doesn't seem, Julie, that Democrats have a way to stop this and maybe delay it a bit. We don't know what we don't know about the questioning over the next 2 days, but it seems like they want to get the political implication of Obamacare out forefront.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, Democrats will acknowledge that they don't really have a way to slow this down. If Amy Coney Barrett has a strong performance over the next couple of days, it seems like that her nomination will move forward pretty cleanly. But what Democrats do feel like they can do is turn this into a discussion about healthcare, which is something that the party did successfully in 2018 during those midterm elections. They feel like when it comes to where Americans are on this question of retaining the Affordable Care Act, that they're in a stronger position, particularly given the fact that President Trump keeps talking about having a healthcare plan, but really has not put forward anything comprehensive. So if they can spend these hearings talking about healthcare, they consider that a victory for them, even if it doesn't do anything to slow down Barrett's nomination.
Mollie, is your bet that this is going to get through before election?
Well, certainly. I think it is good to remember that, generally speaking, the way to oppose a Republican nominee to the Supreme Court, if you're a Democrat, is not during the initial hearing process, but to drop a smear after the hearings have ended. That's what you saw with Justice Thomas. It's what you saw with Brett Kavanaugh. They both made it through their hearings fairly unscathed, and that was when everything broke loose after the hearings were completed. So the fact that these hearings will likely go pretty well for Amy Coney Barrett isn't the end of the story. The problem for Democrats, and it shows in this convoluted healthcare argument they're trying to make, is that they don't have a lot of ammunition, and there's not a lot of goodwill given how they handled that Kavanaugh confirmation process 2 years ago. That really unified not just Republicans, but really all non-Democrats in thinking that that was a really unfair smear operation. And so there's not a lot of patience for game playing or for what might unfurl as the week progresses.
Yeah, one of the best Republican speeches, opening statements, might have been Senator Ben Sasse, who kind of put everything in Schoolhouse Rock terms for the 8th graders watching, and also referenced Judge Amy Coney Barrett's last appearance and some of the questions she received. Take a listen.
This committee isn't in the business of deciding whether the dogma lives too loudly within someone. This committee isn't in the business of deciding which religious beliefs are good and which religious beliefs are bad and which religious beliefs are weird. It's none of the business of this committee to delve into any of that in this context, because in this committee and in this Congress and in this constitutional structure, religious liberty is the basic truth.
We'll see what we get over the next 2 days, Chris, but pure politics, how does this play if it gets through? How does it play if it's after the election?
Well, you got to like Sass there, which is basically the Sassian version of come at me, bro, because that's what Republicans have been saying to Democrats about Amy Coney Barrett, which is, you want to bring up her religion again? You want to bring up her 7 kids again? You want to bring up people of praise again? Please do, because we're going to roast you alive if you try. And that's been the dare that Republicans have been putting out in front of members like Mazie Hirono, Cory Booker, and others who were prone to histrionics and sort of high school theatrics when it came to previous hearings to try to make these emotional. But to Sass's point, I don't think for a lot of persuadable voters, they could care. I don't think that Jimmy Crack Corn and they don't care. You take out this case, you take out this matter from the election, I don't think there's any persuadable voter that's affected. I think this is just going to be pretty par for the course, pretty matter of fact.
Senator Sasse also managed to get in the word jackwagon into his speech. Brit, the political fallout of all of this, it is something the president can say, I said I was going to deliver conservative judges, and I did.
Yeah, I think, but he already had that established with the 2 previous nominees. I think, it shows that he's still got power, and it shows that he's still using it. But I'm not sure this is the kind of, if he gets her through and it goes through without some hideous controversy arising at the last minute, I don't think it adds too much to his strength with voters, because the people who think Amy Coney Barrett is a good nominee that should pass are probably already for Donald Trump anyway. I think it could have hurt him if he didn't make the nomination, but he did, and so I think that this is probably a wash politically, unless the Democrats raise something that is considered disgraceful by most people and hurt themselves, which I think they did in the end with the Brett Kavanaugh nomination.